This is the second module on discrete Fourier transform. Discrete Fourier transform, DFT. In the previous module, we have seen how to compute the DFT, or what is DFT. So given a sequence x of n, and we have the discrete Fourier transform x of k, and the x of k is given by sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power of minus j 2 pi nk by n. While we can also get back the original sequence from its DFT coefficients by using the relation k equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of k e to the power of j 2 pi nk by n. This is what we have seen in the previous module. In today's module, we shall try to relate the analog domain, the analog frequency omega, or the sampling frequency fs, sampling frequency omega s, to the endpoint DFT. Because usually we have our discrete time sequence, which is obtained through sampling the continuous time signal, and after sampling the signal, we try to compute our endpoint DFT. From the DFT, we need to relate it to real frequencies which are present in the signal. So in this module, we will consider an analog signal, say x of t. We sample it. We get the discrete time sequence xn. We compute the endpoint DFT x of k, and we obtain the from x of k, we try to get the frequency spectrum. This is what we shall focus in this module. So now, before we proceed into these steps, we shall recall a concept that we had seen during the beginning of these lecture modules, and that is the sampling theorem. We saw the sampling theorem, wherein we said if I have a signal x of t, and if I multiply it by a periodic impulse train or a pulse train with a sampling interval Ts, I get my sample signal xs of t. And this sample signal xs of t has a spectrum given by 1 by Ts. N is minus infinity to infinity, x of omega minus n omega s, where omega s is my sampling frequency and my analog signal x of t has the spectrum x of omega. This is something we have seen in the very first module, the sampling theorem. So now let's take a simple example to really understand what exactly happens in the whole process. So let's take an example of a rectangular pulse. Let us say we have a rectangular pulse that extends, say, from -1 to 1 with magnitude 1. So we have a rectangular pulse x of t. This is a continuous time signal, and we know if we compute the Fourier transform of this signal, x of omega is given by the area of the rectangle 2 sinc omega. This quantity, if this had been 2, it would have been sinc 2 omega, and we have done this example earlier. So now if I try to plot the spectrum, it's a sinc function, and it's a sinc function having 0 crossings at integral multiples of pi, 2 pi, and so on, and takes a maximum magnitude of 2. So this is my spectrum of my original signal x of t, and this is my analog frequency omega. Now let us say we try to sample the signal xs of t. So I am going to take, let us say I sample. And let us say my sampling interval. So this is 1. My sampling interval Ts is say 0.2 seconds. And so they are still magnitudes of 1. So it goes from -1 to +1. The same analog signal that I have, I am going to sample it using a sampling interval of Ts. So with the sampling interval of Ts, what happens? What is my omega s? My omega s is 2 pi by Ts, which is 2 pi by 0.2, and that becomes 10 pi. So my sampling frequency is now 10 pi. So now if I try to sketch the spectrum of this sample signal, the Fourier transform, I have excess of omega, and the spectrum of my sample signal is going to be my original spectrum at present here with integral multiples of pi, my original spectrum. This is pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and so on. And then I have, it's going to become periodic, and this is at 10 pi. I have another component at 10 pi. And similarly, I have another component at -10 pi, and of course, integral multiples 20 pi, 20 pi, 30 pi, and so on. This is my spectrum of the sample signal, which is periodic, and this quantity is nothing but my omega s. So this is my omega s, and omega s is 10 pi. So it is periodic with the spectrum of the sample signal is periodic with period 10 pi. Now, so what we have done here is we have sampled the signal, and on sampling the spectrum has become periodic. Now, if I consider the same as my discrete time sequence xn, if I consider this as my discrete time sequence xn, x of n, what I get is I am going to get my scale is going to be n, and n is always an integer, so it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and I'm getting the same samples. I have the same sample signal, and this is my sample signal, which is 1. If I look at my sample sequence x of n, if I want to define it, this is going to be x of n is 1 for mod n less than or equal to 5 and 0 otherwise. This is my sample signal xn, and now by convention we normally terminate it by a bubble to tell that it's a discrete time sequence, and my discrete time sequence xn cannot be non-integer. N is always an integer. Now for this sequence, if I compute x of omega, if I compute x of omega, what I am going to get is this is going to be periodic with period 2 pi, and it says something like this. Periodic with period 2 pi. We'll get the exact spectrum when we try to compute it using the tool. And how do I get x of omega? X of omega is given by this summation. So because it's finite here, n going from -5 to +5, x of n, which is a 1, e power minus j omega n. Using this, I compute and I try to get this result. Now for the same sequence, if I compute, let us say I compute an n point DFT. N point DFT. Let us take a case of say n equal to 8. For example, let us say n equal to 8. Then what I get is what we get is we are going to get okay. So now let us say I take n equal to 8. So I'm going to get 8 samples from here. So my first sample at 2 pi. So at pi pi by 2, and say one sample here and say, so the spacing is going to be 2 pi by 8 or pi by 4, with the spacing and angle being pi by 4. I get the samples, and these samples now become my x of k. Now my x of k is going to be n equal to, this goes from 0 to n. So I have a sample here, I have a sample here, say a sample here, say a sample here. I hope I got it. 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 samples, and the nth value is going to be this. And of course, it's periodic. And if I consider it, I'll have similar values present on either side. This is my x of k. So this is I can now, instead of taking n equal to 8, I can take an n equal to, suppose I compute say an n point, say 16 point, instead of taking an 8 point DFT, if I consider, let us say n equal to 16. If I consider a 16 point DFT, then my spacing, my omega s, or my not omega s, my resolution, if I call it as a resolution, omega r, or the spacing between the samples here, this resolution is going to be 2 pi by 16, which is pi by 8. So I'll have additional samples in between if I take it. So this is what we have. So now why have we taken this example is we just have a quick recall. We have taken an example where I have a rectangular pulse as my time domain function. This function x of t has in the Fourier transform, or when I take the Fourier transform, it's a sinc function in the frequency domain. It is continuous, non-periodic, and it extends from -infinity to infinity, the spectrum. And when I sample the signal through sampling theorem, we know that the spectrum of the sample signal becomes periodic. It is still continuous, but it has become periodic. And it is periodic with period omega s. Omega s. This is my spectrum of the sample signal. And here we are still in continuous time. I mean, we are still, even though we have just sampled it, my signal is still a function of time. And then I have the spectrum in this manner. The same signal, these samples, now instead of treating it as x of t, I simply look at it as samples. So now I'm going to look here as samples. Now when I consider them as samples, now I do not have any time interval that is reflected in the samples as such. It comes as outside of an additional information along with the sample sequence, or a sequence of numbers. So in this example, if I take the sample, let us say I'm choosing my sampling interval of 0.1, I get 5 samples and 5 samples, total of 11. So my n now is an integer. So this is all my samples are x of n is 1 for mod n less than or equal to 5 and 0 otherwise. Now this signal, if I try to compute the discrete time Fourier transform, I try to compute the discrete time Fourier transform. And the moment I do the discrete time Fourier transform, I am going to get it periodic with period 2 pi. And how do I compute the discrete time Fourier transform? We have seen it. This is the way we compute sigma n equal, because in this example xn exists only from -5 to +5. I compute that. Put in the value of xn. Of course, the value of xn is 1 e power minus j omega. And when I compute it, I will be able to get the x of omega. This is the discrete time Fourier transform. And from this discrete time Fourier transform, I try to take say 8 equally spaced samples. And when I take 8 equally spaced samples, my resolution, the interval between two successive samples is going to be 2 pi by 8 or pi by 4 when n equal to 8. And I'm going to get 8 samples, and these 8 samples are known as my 8-point DFT. This becomes my 8-point DFT of the sequence. But then I cannot do an 8-point DFT because in this example, my sequence xn is of length 8. No, sorry. My sequence xn is of length 11, -5 to +5. So I should take an n which is greater than or equal to 11. So let us take, I take 16-point DFT. If I take 16-point DFT, what happens to my resolution or the spacing between two consecutive spectral components that I try to sample? It is going to be 2 pi by 16, or I have a resolution of pi by 8. And I'm going to get my 16-point DFT of my sequence x of n. So now why did we go through all this discussion? Is only to recognize that the DFT x of k is periodic, and n-point DFT is periodic with period n. The x of omega, which is this is my DFT, and this is my discrete time Fourier transform. This is periodic with period 2 pi. And my spectrum of my sample signal x of omega is periodic with period omega s. So by looking at all of the above, we say that n is equivalent to 2 pi if I am trying to map n and x of omega, and they are equivalent to omega s if I'm trying to map it with the corresponding analog frequency. So this is my sampling frequency, or in the analog domain. So we need to have this picture always in mind, that my spectrum is continuous, and in the frequency domain they are all periodic with period 2 pi. And from this I take n equally spaced samples, and I get my n-point DFT, and I can always map it to the corresponding analog frequency using the relation that n is equivalent to, because once I sample it, the spectrum of the sample signal is periodic with period omega s. So this helps us to compute. So after getting this, through this observation, we can compute an n-point DFT and map it to the analog frequency omega s. So this is possible because of our understanding of the sampling theorem, the discrete time Fourier transform, and the n-point DFT. They're all related together, and we can compute each of these components by different methods. There is no fixed method for evaluating any of these expressions, because we can move from analog to frequency domain. We can really compute the spectrum in the analog domain, and then take the sampling and then shift it and keep it, and then sketch the spectrum in one period, and then sample it. From there we'll still get. But of course, so having seen, we have just seen that the n-point DFT, n is equivalent to omega s, the sampling frequency, which is also equivalent to 2 pi if I consider the discrete time of Fourier transform x of omega. Or this is when I conduct sampling using fs, and this is my n-point DFT. So now we will take up some, and we also have seen that they given a sequence x of n, the n-point DFT x of k. We have it is discrete in both the domains, and the DFT is given by sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power of minus j 2 pi nk by n, while the inverse DFT x of n is given by 1 by n sigma k equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of k e to the power of j 2 pi nk by n. We shall see how to evaluate this and what are the different methods of computing the DFT or IDFT in next module. But for completeness, having seen the relationship between the sampling theorem, the discrete Fourier transform, and the DFT, we shall now try to take an example to appreciate what this concept of discrete Fourier transform, the DFT. So for ease in computation, we will maybe take up, we will see how to compute this summation and take up some examples purely to appreciate the concept of DFT. So the examples are selected in that manner. So now let me consider I have as a first example. Let's consider we have a signal x of t is say. Let's take an example. Let's take an example. Say I consider my signal x of t. X of t is say cos 2 pi t. Now this is a signal of frequency fm equal to 1 hertz. And so I need to have my sampling frequency greater than 2 hertz. Let me select my sampling frequency as say 8. And then my sampling interval Ts is going to become 1 by 8, that is 0.125. And let define my time in the interval 0 to 1 in steps of 0.125. So my T is going to be say 0.125, 0.25, and so on up to say 0.875. So I'm just taking 8 values. Let me now compute an 8-point DFT. So my aim is I'll compute an 8-point DFT of a sequence xn which is sampled x of t cos 2 pi t. So let me try to define this time and let me compute the values of x of t for this time, and then I will have my discretized sequence xn. So let me just to save time, let me take the help of MATLAB in evaluating this. So now my aim is to compute an 8-point DFT. So I defined my n as say 8 and t is defined in this manner. So let's just check our t. So t goes from 0, 0.125, 0.25 and so on up to 0.875. And now my x of t is going to be cos 2 pi t. And let's see what are the values: 1, 0.7070, etc. So let us put down these values of x of t. So my x of t is 1, 0.707, 0, minus 0.707, minus 1, minus 0.701, 0.707. This is my sampled cosine signal taken I'm taking 8 samples in one period. And because I have taken my length of xn is 8. So if I take my length of xn, in this case is 8. Of course, I could have defined a longer duration and I could have taken 20 or 30 samples, but let's take we have just taken 8 samples. So because my length is 8, the minimum value of n for which I can compute a DFT is going to be again 8. So let me compute the 8-point DFT. And we know we need to compute the DFT using the summation. But MATLAB has an inbuilt command FFT. We will use this today just for starting. But later on, we will try to also compute the DFT without using this matrix, and we'll take up the methods of computing DFT in the next module. For today, for completeness, we will take the help of MATLAB and try to compute the FFT by using this command, FFT of the FFT command. which is given by FFT of say xn and an endpoint DFT. So this command gives me I can compute an endpoint DFT using this command. So let me go to MATLAB and let me try to compute the DFT, the discrete Fourier transform DFT of x of t, and my n is an 8-point DFT. So I get my x of k. Let us see what is my x of k. And if you see the x of k, the complex component is 0 and it is only real. So let me try to look at the real values of x of k. What I have is 0, 4, 0, 0, 0, and 4. So this is my DFT. So now what we are getting, the 8-point DFT of the sequence xn is given by 0, then 4, then all zeros, 2, 4, 6, 7, and the last term being a 4. So this is what I'm getting. The 8-point DFT turns out in this manner. So what is our observation now? If I try to plot, if we try to plot this x of k as a function of k, I am having it 0 for n equal to 0. It is having a magnitude of 4 at n equal to 1. Then I have zeros. And the last term, n equal to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The seventh term is also a 4. And of course, 8 will be equal to 0 because it is going to be periodic with period n. And this is my plot as a function of k. But I can convert the same plot as a function of f. Instead of having this, I can have my as frequency in hertz. And in this particular example, this is k is periodic with period n equal to 8. And here it is also periodic with fs, and fs is equal to 8. So I simply translate this and I get the frequency component that I get is 1 hertz. So by looking at the frequency spectrum, and as we saw, it is only the frequency of 0 to fs by 2 is of significance. So if I want to translate the same plot into a frequency spectrum, what we get is, I get f, this is my 8, I'm getting a spectral component at 1. This is my x of f. I have a spectral component at 1, everything else. And of course, the component that is present at 7, 7 does not correspond to a frequency of 7, but it is because of the symmetry in the plot. So by looking at the spectral plot, we conclude that the given sequence x of n has one frequency component, and that is present at 1 hertz. And is this an unknown result? This is a known result. We have taken a signal of frequency 1. We did we took the samples. Then we computed the DFT of this and we tried to plot it. Then we mapped n to f. And then after doing all this, then we find that the spectral component that are present in the signal is same. It is a signal of frequency 1 hertz. So this is an example just to show this show that we can use DFT to compute the spectrum of a given signal. So let's take one more example. As a second example, let us take my signal, say x of t, is say 2 cos 2 pi t, say plus 3 cos 4 pi t. So what are the frequency components present in the signal? By observing my signal, I have a component at 1 hertz, and I also have a component at 2 hertz. And the component at 2 hertz is of a higher magnitude than the component at 1 hertz. This is what we know. This is the type of signal we are taking. And what is the highest frequency present in the signal? The highest frequency is 2. So my sampling frequency should be greater than 2. Once again, let me set my sampling frequency to 8. And let me try to compute. First, I need to get my x of n. And for this x of n, I will compute the 8-point DFT. So my n remains as 8 and going 0 to this. So this is my time I'm defining. And what is my x of t? It's say 2 cos 2 pi t plus 3 cos 4 pi t. So I'm taking a signal of 2 cos 2 pi t plus 3 cos 4 pi t. So I have two frequency components, one at 1 hertz and another at 2 hertz. And this is my signal x of n. Let me try to write down the signal. So I have my signal as 5, 1.414 minus 3 minus 1.414, 1 minus 1.414 minus 3 and 1.414. So let me try to write the sequence xn. So this signal, the 8 samples when I try to take from this signal with the sampling frequency of 8, fs equal to 8 on my ts is 1 by 8. I am getting the values as 5, 1.414, minus 3, minus 1.414, 1, minus 1.414, minus 3, 1.414. These are my 8 samples that I am getting when I take this as my signal. Now let me try to compute the 8-point DFT of this sequence x of k. Let's compute the 8-point DFT of this sequence x of k. X of k is the discrete Fourier transform of my x of t and for 8 values. I'm taking and then since I've taken only cosine signals, again the result is going to be real. And let me try to observe the real values of x of k. So I am getting the result as 0, 8, 12, 0, 12, 8. So let me make a note of the 8-point DFT. 0, 8, 12, 0, 0, 2, 8, 12. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So let me check the result once again. I have a 0, 8, 12. I have 3 zeros, 12 and an 8. So let's try to plot the spectrum. So in this case, I can either call my in this example, let us first try to plot it as a function of k. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So I have a 0, I have a value, spectral component at 1, it has a magnitude of 8, at 2, a magnitude of 12. And what happens at 1 also happens at 7. And what happens at 2 also happens at 6. And we have the other components being 0. And in this particular example, we have taken n as equal to 8 and my sampling frequency fs is also 8. So when I equate my fs, n being equivalent to fs, what I observe is we have a frequency component f. The frequency components present in the signal are at 1 hertz and 2 hertz. And as we know, only the components in the 0 to fs by 2 are of physical significance, and otherwise they are all they appear because of symmetry. So this is again a known result. We have taken a signal which has two components, 1 hertz and 2 hertz. We sample the signal, we perform the 8-point DFT, and we got the same spectral components. And we also find that the magnitude of the component at 2 hertz is higher than the magnitude of the component present at 1 hertz. A known result, it is just to appreciate the concept of DFT. Let's take one more example now. The third example. So now let me take my signal x of t as say cos 8 pi t. So what is this? This is the signal of frequency 4 hertz. 4 hertz, and let us say I take my sampling frequency fs as 8. And let us check what happens now. Are we able to get the spectrum? I still retain my n as 8, so 8 point DFT. My x of t. My x of t, I now make it as say cos 4 pi t, cos 8 pi t. So this is a signal of frequency 4. My x of t is this. And now let us see what is my x of t. It is 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1, and so on. This is my x of t. Let us compute the 8 point DFT of the sequence. So, and I am getting 4 zeros, 8 and 3 zeros. So let's check if the result is right. Is it what we expect? So this is a signal of frequency 4 hertz. When I sample it, what did I get my x of n as? I got my x of n as 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1. So these are my values I got when I sampled the signal of 4 hertz. And when I computed the 8 point DFT of this signal, I am getting it as 4 zeros and then an 8 and then 3 zeros. So now if I try to plot the spectrum of the signal, say k going from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have my first 4 values as 0, and then at 4, this corresponds to k equal to 4. I am getting a component of 8. So my x of k. And again, all other terms are 0. So if I map it to frequency, what is my frequency present now? Since again I have taken n is equal to fs, both are 8. So my frequency present in this signal is 4 hertz, which is correct. Which is correct. And this is the known result. We have got the known result. So now let me take one more example. Let's take another example. Say I take my signal now x of t as say cos 10 pi t. When I take cos 10 pi t, what is my frequency present in the signal? FM is 5 hertz. So this is a signal of frequency 5 hertz. So my sampling frequency should actually be fs should be greater than or equal to 10 hertz. Should be greater than or equal to 10. But I know the sampling theorem, but I just want to see what happens if I do not follow the sampling theorem. So even though I know my sampling frequency should be greater than 10, I am still going to continue with the sampling frequency of say 8. So now let us take the lower sampling frequency. Let us compute my x of n, and then let us try to compute our x of k and see what is the result we get. So we are violating the sampling theorem and trying to take a lower sampling frequency. So let's do that. So my n remains same. N is still 8. I still want to do this. But what is my x of t now? X of t is cos 10 pi t. And what is cos 10 pi t? It's a signal of frequency 5 hertz. And let us see how is my x of t. It is having some value. So 1 minus 0.707, 0. So I'm getting samples. So 1 minus 0.707, 0, 0.707, minus 1, 0.707, 0, minus 0.707. So my samples are, when I take the samples of the signal, I am getting the value as 1, 0.707, 0, 0.707, minus 1, 0.707, minus 0.707. I think I missed a number. 1 minus 0 is 0, and this. And there's a 0 here. And this is what I'm getting. I am sampling the signal cost 10 pi t and I get some samples. Now let me compute the 8-point DFT of the signal. Let's compute the 8-point DFT. And when I take a cosine function, the result is going to be real. So what I'm getting now? I'm getting 3 zeros, 4, 0. And so what my x of k is 3 zeros, 4, 0, 4. So 8 values. So now if I try to plot the spectrum, what happens to the spectrum? Say whether it is K or F. In this particular case, they are similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 3 values being 0. First 3 are 0. Then I have a component at 3. Then it's a 0. I have a component at 5. And then I have 0. The magnitude being 4. And this is my x of k. So what we have is, now if I map it to the frequency, I am going to conclude. I will look at the spectral components present in less than in the interval 0 to fs by 2, and now I am going to conclude that the signal, the given signal, the signal is of frequency 3 hertz. Is of frequency 3 hertz. Now what is my actual signal? My signal that I have taken, I've actually taken a signal of frequency 5 hertz. So we have taken a signal of frequency. My original signal x of t is of 5 hertz. But we violated the sampling theorem and took a lower sampling frequency. We took a lower sampling frequency. And then when we observe the spectrum, we find that the signal is of 3 hertz. Why has this happened? This has happened because of the concept that we have seen earlier, aliasing. What is aliasing? A high frequency component incorrectly coming and appearing as a low frequency component within the sampling, within the pass band, because of having taken a incorrect sampling frequency. So this is what happens. So hence it's extremely important that we are cautious in selecting our sampling frequency. Otherwise, any algorithm will compute the DFT and give us the result, and those results may be representing completely incorrect frequencies. So sampling theorem becomes an important concept for moving from analog to discrete domain. And the discrete Fourier transform helps us in computing the spectral components. But in this process, we should also always ensure that we are following the sampling theorem. Otherwise, we will end up with incorrect interpretation or incorrect spectral components. But the same result, now if I take my same signal and maintain a correct sampling frequency, I will be able to recover it. So for example, say now n, instead of taking n equal to 10, let us say I take n equal to say 16. And now my x of t is say cos. So now I am taking my frequency as 5, but I have taken a sampling frequency of 16. And now if I take my x of k, compute, and then if I see my result, so what do I get now? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At frequency 5, I'm getting a non-zero component. My spectrum is perfect. So thank you. To summarize, we need to ensure that our sampling frequency is correctly chosen so that the problem of aliasing is not present. And the use of DFT helps us in computing the spectral components present in the signal. In the next module, we shall see how